Today, I'm going to share with you how to start a group private practice in 7 steps. And this is not about mindset. These are 7 practical steps to get the group practice started from the very beginning to the very end. I'm really excited to dive into this video with you and give you the 7 practical tips. But before we do though, please go ahead and subscribe down below. Hit the thumbs up button on this video. It really is helpful. I think this video will be enough to get your group practice started. However, there are so many nuanced details and little things. If you are interested in a very in-depth resource for starting a group practice, stick around to the end and I'm going to share with you a bit more about something else that could take you even deeper. All right, let's jump right in. The first step is to determine whether or not a group practice is actually the right move for you. This is actually a really important practical question that you need to ask yourself. A lot of people end up starting a solo practice. They realize that their caseload is getting full and they want to offer services to more people or they want to make extra money. And so they feel like the next logical step is to hire someone and start a group practice. However, starting a group practice is not a simple solution to a growing caseload. Starting a group practice is not just an easy way to make more money. In fact, starting a group practice is a lot of work. I mean, just to name a few things, you're on call 24/7. You have to learn all about HR things. You have to learn about business and marketing. You have to learn about time off and what your employees are required to have. You have to learn about employees and contractors. I mean, you are the one in charge of calendars and schedules and onboarding. There is a lot of work to be done when starting a group practice. And so I just want to make it clear that starting a group practice is fantastic. It is not the simple solution to making more money or to offering services to more people. It can help you with those things, but it is not a simple solution to those things. However, if you're thinking that you want to learn more about business, you want to expand your practice, you want to supervise, you want to learn about HR, you want to get your hands dirty with some business, and you want to learn new skill sets, then starting a group practice might be the move for you because you're going to learn a whole bunch of new skill sets. So if you're passionate about these things and you're passionate about learning, then starting a group practice might be for you. So to sum that up really quick, starting a group practice is not a simple solution. It is actually a complex solution that requires a ton of time, a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights. And at the end of the day, though, it is awesome. It is a really great endeavor. I highly recommend it. It's just not easy. I will say, though, it does get easier over time. So I don't want to scare you completely. All right, step number 2 is going to be to establish a business entity. Now, a lot of people establish what's called a PLLC, a professional limited liability company. I know there's other business entities as well, such as PCs, which stands for professional corporation. At the end of the day, you have to establish a business entity. As a solo practitioner, this is optional, but in a group practice, this is really not optional. And that's for a number of reasons. First is you need to separate yourself, your independent person, from the group practice because it's not just you anymore. There's going to be employees or contractors or whoever else you hire. And secondly, and arguably most importantly, is that when you establish something like a PLLC, because that's what I've established here in the state of New York, then the PLLC is actually going to protect you, the person, you as an individual, from your employees' mistakes. Right? And this is huge. You do not want your employees' mistakes to fall on you if there's ever a lawsuit or anything like that. Now, just be clear that having a PLLC and being a solo practitioner does not protect you personally from malpractice. A PLLC, at least here in the state of New York, is going to protect you from your employees' mistakes. It is not going to protect you and your personal assets from your own mistakes. So you really want to be clear about that. Now, if you're curious about in-depth details about how to establish a PLLC, I've made a video all about that. I will link it down below and it may pop up here somewhere. But to give you a quick way to establish a business entity, and it's the option I used, is to hire a company that will establish it for you. Now, you can hire an attorney or an accountant to do this. However, I found that to be quite costly. However, there are other services that will help you do this as well. One example of this is called Capital Services. That is the company that I've used. used. They do not know I'm making this video. However, they were really great. They really helped me out. I'll leave a link down below so you can check out Capital Services, and you can even see what Capital Service is, and you can see if there's any other resources out there like them. They would essentially give me all the required paperwork and tell me what to fill out. I would hand it to them. They would interact on my behalf with the state, and they did all that kind of stuff. So they told me what needed to be corrected. They shared with me how things needed to be filled out. It was a really seamless process. So if you're able to, having a company to help you start the PLLC, it may be quite helpful. The next thing you're going to want to do is to open up a business bank account. Now, again, as a solo practitioner, this was semi-optional, although I always encouraged it. However, if you're hiring employees and running payroll, you absolutely need a separate business bank account. Now, the way you do this is by obtaining an EIN, or an employer identification number. And once you have that, you can simply walk into a bank or call the bank and establish your business bank account. I think it only takes a few hours, maybe even less. I walked into a bank with my EIN and my stack of paperwork from my PLLC, and they got me set up right away. This happens after establishing the PLLC, or the business entity, because your EIN is going to be attached to the PLLC or business entity. So once you get that established, get the EIN, you get that from the IRS website. I'll leave a link down below to that. You can then take that EIN, walk into the bank, and get the business bank account. The next thing you're going to do, and this is probably going to be the most confusing aspect of starting a group practice, is going to be to decide between W-2 employees or 1099 contractors. Now, I made a separate video all about W-2s and 1099s. If you want to pause here and check that out, I'll leave the link down below. It may pop up here as well. But for this video, let me give you some background information. A W-2 is an employee. A 1099 is a contractor. These are two very different things. There's a lot of misinformation about W-2s and 1099s, what they mean and how they work for you in your group practice. So let's clear that up here. So just to keep it simple, a W-2 is an employee. And when someone is an employee, there's a couple of things that you have to know. One is that they are entitled to certain benefits that you have to provide. Now, these are things in the state of New York. This includes workers' compensation, paid family leave, short-term disability, these kinds of things. As an employer, I have to provide those for my employees. Now, that all happens on the back end. So I work with an insurance broker to make sure I have the required insurances and benefits for the employees. And then I go ahead and I pay for those things as well. And another thing to know is that when you hire an employee, you have much more control over the direction of the business and what the employee does as the employer. So for example, if I hire an employee, I'm able to tell them what hours they need to work. I'm able to set rules and regulations and policies around the business and how it's conducted, right? So all of that can happen with a W-2. So when you have a W-2 employee, you as the employer have more control over how they work for you. That's to put it really simply. However, they cost more because you have to supply them with those benefits that I just mentioned, and you also pay taxes on their behalf. So not only is a W-2 employee paying taxes as any employee does, you as the employer is also paying taxes as well for each employee. And this can be quite costly. So the trade-off is, if you have a W-2 employee, you have more control over how they work for you and greater direction over your business as a whole. And the drawback is that they cost more money. A 1099 is a contractor, and this is technically not an employee. A contractor is someone that you hire to provide a service for you on your behalf. However, they own their own business. In this case, it would be a private practice. So for example, if I was to hire a contractor, I would ask someone else who's fully licensed, able to have a private practice, to do therapy on behalf of my practice. But because they're a contractor, I am not able to tell them what hours they work, what tools to use, who they see, all those kinds of things. They decide that on their own. Now, you are able to establish an agreement between them, but it's essentially an agreement between two private practices. Think about it this way. If you are a homeowner and you hire a plumber to come in to work in your home, you do not tell the plumber how to do their job, what tools to use, what time to arrive. You hire the plumber, who has their own plumbing business, to come into your house and to do their job for you. It's the same way as a private practice. If I hire a therapist, I'm asking them to do therapy the way they do it for my practice. Now again, there's an agreement that you can make, but you don't have control over a 1099. The benefit is you're not paying any taxes for them. You simply agree on a payment rate and a payment schedule, and you pay them. They do their own taxes. You don't pay any taxes on their behalf. It's really quite simple and seamless. Now, in terms of therapy, there's a few things you really have to be aware of. And the first is, and I'm speaking about the state of New York, and I'm sure there are laws in other states as well, and something that people don't know is that an LMSW, or a provisionally licensed individual, meaning someone who requires supervision, is not able to be a 1099 contractor. It is illegal. An LMSW or provisionally licensed person needs to be a W-2 employee. That's how it is in the state of New York. So if you're looking to hire LMSWs or provisionally licensed folks into your practice, they have to be W-2 employees. They cannot be 1099 contractors. So this right here might already default you to W-2 employees if you're looking to hire provisionally licensed folks. Now I'm speaking from the state of New York, which I know is true. However, this is not legal advice. If you're in another state, I would encourage you to contact an attorney to verify this, but this is something that is true in the state of New York. That means that if you are trying to hire 1099 contractors, then you can only hire fully licensed individuals. So then how do you determine W-2 versus 1099? Well, if you are hiring provisionally licensed people, it's already determined for you. And then the other way you have to think about it is, what is your long-term vision for your practice? If you want more control, you want to set the hours that people work, you want to create some sort of culture, then having W-2 might be the way to go. If you're looking to just simply hire another therapist to work for you and you're looking for it to be quite seamless, they do their own thing but for you, then a 1099 contractor might work for you. At the end of the day, I think the biggest thing that you want to think about is your long-term vision for your practice, and from there, what's going to make the most sense, W-2 or 1099. Now, if you end up going with a W-2 employee, you're now going to have to do payroll. You're going to need a software to begin paying your employees. You don't just cut them a check. There's really complex taxes that need to be taken out and all sorts of things. You cannot do this yourself. You either need to hire an accountant or you can use a software. Most people are using softwares because it's cheaper and it works really well. It's all automated. One software that people often recommend for small private practices and small businesses is Gusto. This is something I've used. Now, again, I'm not sponsored by Gusto. If you want to check them out, you can. I'll leave a link down below. There are other companies just like them as well, but Gusto is a payroll software for small businesses. And so let's say, for example, you're going to hire W-2s. You would then sign up for Gusto, and they would actually walk you through the steps to get started with enrolling in payroll. And a software like Gusto, the good thing about it is it actually seamlessly walks you through all the steps and requirements you need for actually onboarding and hiring a W-2 employee. And this is covered in Gusto or any other payroll software. But the thing you do want to be aware of is what insurances you're required to provide to a W-2 employee. Now, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but when you hire a W-2 employee as the employer, you are required to provide them certain benefits. In the state of New York, again, this is workers' compensation, short-term disability, and paid family leave. Gusto walks me through how to establish each of those. But if you're not using Gusto, you do want to make sure you're providing your employees with the benefits that they are entitled to have. The other thing you need to be aware of is that you need to open an employer tax account. So in the state of New York, I had to open up this kind of account. Now you can do this through Gusto. However, it tends to be kind of costly. You can also do it independently, and it's actually not that hard. To give you an example of what an employer tax account is, I'll leave a link down below to the New York employer account so you can see what it looks like. So once you have all of those steps completed, you're then ready to hire. And the first thing that you're going to do in terms of hiring is to write up and have employment agreements or contracts. Now, this is not something I would tell you to do on your own or to Google. I would actually consult with an attorney who can provide you with employer contracts and agreements. So when you hire someone, you have to provide them with a contract or an agreement that states what the employment actually entails and what they're required to do. I mean, it's very complex. There's a lot of different things that go into this. So I would hire a small business attorney or an attorney who specializes in private practice. Tell them you are establishing a group practice and hiring, and ask them if they have employer agreements and any other documents that you need. And then you can just modify it with their help, and that will be your employer documentation. Highly recommend using an attorney. That's what I've done. I'll leave the attorney I used down below. You'll also want to write a job description so you can post this on different websites where you can post a job. Now, the way I like to do this is by looking at other job descriptions from similar employers who are looking to hire. So go on LinkedIn or Indeed and look for the position like therapist or per diem therapist or counselor, whatever it is you're looking to hire, and read some of those job descriptions, see what they're adding in there, see what kind of information is in those, and model yours off of that. You might also want to ask the attorney if there's anything you're required to have on your job posting. I know in some states there are requirements for the job posting, so definitely verify that as well. Once you post your job, you'll then begin to get people who are interested, and you'll begin interviewing candidates. Now you can decide what questions you ask on the interview and how you conduct your interviews, but that will be the next step. And then finally, you will onboard the new therapist. You will do this in a few ways. First, you'll put them into Gusto so that they're enrolled in your payroll software. Again, Gusto makes it quite simple, and they'll walk you through the process of getting everything established and making sure you have all required documents. So that's really simple. Then you'll onboard them to your actual practice, the EHR that you use, how you document, what their hours will be. You will actually teach the person how to work for you in your practice. And if you want to hire more than one employee, you follow those steps again and again until you have enough employees or as many employees as you want. And that's pretty much it. This is how you start a group practice in 7 steps. However, if you want to go even deeper into this and learn a bit more, I recently launched a monthly membership program, which has 2 aspects. One is a community aspect where you can ask specific questions, and then I will respond with specialized webinars and video responses. I review each and every question myself and respond personally. So it's like having a one-on-one consultation without the exorbitant costs. Additionally, there's an ongoing resource toolbox where you'll find checklists and guides and all sorts of helpful information and products that will help you start, run, and grow a solo or group practice. And you can even request that I create a certain guide or tool, and I will create that and drop it into the toolbox. So this monthly membership is going to start at $25 per month. And it's actually going to be free for the first month by using code BETAUSER. The link to this monthly membership is down below. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope you learned something, and I look forward to seeing you soon.